I am Mary Bennett and we are at Our Lady of Mercy School in Deloraine. This school's actually got 130 years of history. We turn 130 this year. We've got a long history here. It's actually quite a varied history. So the school was originally set up by the Sisters of Mercy, who were invited to come down and set up a school by the local priest who was here. So he sourced those nuns from Goulburn area in New South Wales. And when they began, and the school's continued in the tradition, while it technically is a Catholic school, by far a majority of our students, particularly today, are not Catholic. They may be Christian, or they may have no faith, identified with no faith background, or we have quite a few families who have other world religions as their key faith. This school has been a secondary school, and it's also had a boarding school attached to it. So it was originally set up to cater for, in particular, the young women of the Northwest Coast. Deloraine itself and the school that was set up here was the school for girls to go to if they wanted a secondary education in a Catholic school. The other schools they went to were St Mary's in Hobart, St Virgil's for the boys, or they went into Launceston to either St Thomas More's Sacred Heart, which were both all-girls schools, and also St Patrick's, which was the boys' school in Launceston. This school had a boarding school over the road in what is now Blake's Manor, which was also where the first school was, which was a run-down pub called the Criterion Hotel, which was in disuse and in disrepair. So the school was founded in the front bar of the pub, which is quite a nice story. The school has, in its heyday, had quite a few girls boarding, obviously, also had local boys here. They were not boarders, they had to be day students. We talk about sexism today, maybe that's a little bit of it from back then. In about the 1970s, by that stage, the nuns from this school had gone and assisted with the setting up of Stella Maris, which is the primary school up in Burnie. And the Marist brothers also started to open up Marist College and a secondary school there. This school here for the girls lost its secondary capacities. In I think about the mid-70s was the last secondary school students that this school had. By that stage, they were all heading into Launceston or staying up in the Northwest Coast. From those days, we've just been a primary school. And here we are today as a primary school of only about 100 students at the moment, and numbers fluctuate depending on how many students are around in the district.
Do you know roughly how many teachers and adults are at the school as well?
Okay, we've got roughly about 25 adults in the school. That includes office staff. We have 6 grades, so we have kindergarten, and then we have 5 classes. Sometimes multi-age classes, sometimes straight in the prep to grade 6 area. We just adjust what classes we need according to the cohorts of students that we have and what best suits them and the teachers to cater for those students at that particular time. So that does change from year to year. But the parents here seem to accept that and have no problems with it. The nice thing about being in a really small school is that all the students actually know each other. The students themselves know each other by name, which is great. And we also put at least one teacher aide in each classroom for a significant portion of the day, so until about 1:30 each day, so that caters for the literacy block and the numeracy block that we have. It just enables us to have some really one-on-one support for students as we go through. So it's about 25 adults all up.
Did you mention kinder then as well?
I did talk about kinder, yes. So kinder has full-time aide, full-time teacher, yeah. And we're running, the nice thing about kindergarten at the moment in this school is that we run a 5-day kindergarten program. So kindergarten is 3 days technically, but we have been able to extend that to 5 days. So it's optional for parents to choose to bring them 4 days or 5 days. So a lot of students at the start of this year will go 3 days, and then as their children want to come to school, which they often do more, and or they become school tough because you've got to have a certain stamina to get through 3, 4, 5 days of school. The kids come 5 days. So by the end of the year, as we did last year, which was our first pilot year for the 5-day kinder, Most students came 5 days by the end, not all, but most, which is really great. It fits in really well for working families, especially if they have a child who's already used to daycare, because if a child has been in daycare, they're often, once they start to come to school, it's like daycare's not the same and school is their preferred place, which is really nice.
What was your journey to get here?
My journey to get here, ironically, this was my school. So I started here when I was 4.5. So my journey began here. I then went and did secondary school in Launceston, which was Marion, and then became Marion St Pat's, which is now St Patrick's College. So it went from all-girls school to co-ed school. I actually then went and did my teaching degree in Melbourne at a Catholic training college over there. Then I've come back and I went down and taught in Hobart. For the first 6 years of my teaching career were in Hobart, 3 years in an all-girls school, 3 years in an all-boys school. Loved both. I think there's a place for all sorts of educational varieties, and it depends on students as to where they thrive the best. And I've been in Launceston basically for almost the rest of my teaching career. So I had roughly about 17 years. I'll use the word based at Laminia School in Launceston, but I had a multitude of roles there, from classroom teaching through to helping to instigate their farm program, through to doing IT and being one of the first schools to bring in iPads into schools, deputy principal, and then eventually ended up here being principal back where I started.
When did you start being principal here?
I came here halfway through 2015, so I've been here almost 10 years, heading into my 10th year this year. So yeah, it doesn't feel like that at all. Feels like I've only been here for 4 or 5 years, but thoroughly enjoying it and getting to know the community again.
Do you feel like it has changed in that 10 years a lot or a bit?
It's changed a bit. I suppose I don't really know the school prior to me coming here, but I know now that we've got a really great staff, very dynamic staff. As I say, we actually like each other, which is a really nice work environment for people to be in. And some of the teachers, as one young teacher was saying, she's done a few years up the coast and was lucky enough to get a temporary transfer to here, and is so grateful to now be permanent here because it's a great school, and it is. The staff get on really well. They're there for each other, which means that it's a really supportive and caring environment for teaching staff that then filtrates down into the classrooms, and I think that's a really special quality for our school to have.
Is it that one of the challenges, running a school, finding staff, keeping staff, and...
Yeah, and I think it is for the more rural areas, and while Deloraine's not remote or anything like that, it's terrible. They don't want to travel. They really are. And there are people who now teach here who would never have come here or would never have thought that Deloraine was an option for them, because it just seems to be, in their mind, too far to travel for a work day. As I say to teachers and parents who talk to me, I used to live at Riverside and travel through to St Leonard's. It was a 20-25 minute drive. I travelled 27, 28 minutes to get to school every day on yes, it's a highway, but it's smooth flowing traffic and it's easy. And the staff here, because they enjoy coming here, they're very happy to travel. So we've got half our staff belong on the northwest coast, half our staff are in Launceston. Maybe let's make it a third, and the other third are here locally. So that's really nice, and it's actually, I'm finding that Deloraine is now, oh, you've got a job going, oh, I'd like to come out. So that's a really good problem to have, because I would have said 8 years ago, if I'd said there were jobs here, it was really hard to get staff here. But the last few years, no, it's nice. We've had a choice. So it means we've got really good staff, which is fantastic.
What do you think appeals to Oolong for parents sending their kids here?
The small class sizes is one factor. The parent community, once parents become part of the community, they often love that. The parents generally are friendly to each other. It is really hard with working parents to engage parents with a school community. But we have things like our Fiesta on Godric, which is the old style fair, and the feel. I kick parents out at the end of the night. Often parents are like, they've all gone, but it's no, tell other people. If I'm saying you've got to go home, just remember that I've kicked you out and sent you home. Just remember that next year when you go, oh, do I have to go? You loved it, you enjoyed it. It's part of that close community, I think. We have great parents and friends here who are very good too with new families coming in, particularly if we have people, as we do, coming from interstate, families coming from international. We've got a family coming from Germany, this year. They're already saying it's a great community because the parents are making them feel welcome, the staff that they're meeting are making them feel welcome. So it's a really good environment, I think, community environment. Parents are also aware that we do some really good things academically with children. We try and provide for those who are gifted and give them extension programs, as well as giving a lot of support to those children who struggle at school. And we get quite a few parents who enrol their children when they've been at other schools and their kids aren't really happy or they're not doing as well as they want them to. They find their place here. And I think for our children, that's part of the thing I think we try and do really well. There's a place for everybody, and it doesn't really matter what your interests are, what your little quirks are. As I say, we love the quirky kids. They bring a richness and a variety that I think is great. It's the real world, and we value that, and I think that goes down really well.
What are some of the more memorable moments at school here for you?
For me, memorable moments. Sometimes it's just the small things. Sometimes it's little things like a young boy who comes to you and says, I'm a bit concerned about how other people might be treating somebody. Do you know what I mean? That the children actually have a voice here and they feel that they have and that they can. I think that is special. I think also, it's as I said a bit before, it's the fact that I've got staff who want to come here. I hear great things that are going on out here, which is really great. We are, for some hidden secret is what you might call it, it's the little things. Deloraine House, the involvement that we have with them saying thank you, you make a difference to us. The St Vincent de Paul shop here that we do a bit of support with too. What we do here and what our parents do and our children do to support those organisations is valued and is appreciated, which is great. It's the times that we can go over and invite the Cananga residents here, or we go over and meet the Cananga residents and might sing a song or ask them about a history, what life was like in their history. They're the connections you get, and you get those thank yous, and you know that you're appreciated for the small things. And sometimes for me it's more about the small things than it is about the big things. We have some great teachers here. We had a wonderful performance on stage here at the Deloraine Drama Festival. The kids who got up on stage who 2 years before would think that getting up and acting on stage, let alone singing or singing a solo on stage, are big wins. Sometimes it's the small things, and you look back and see how far children have come. That's, I suppose, where I get my joy from. What
are the plans? Do you have plans for the school in the next couple of years or in the future?
We have significant plans in the next few. So there's big plans here. There will be a significant building project done, hopefully starting sometime this year. We do need to start with some different master planning. We have had planning done here. You may not want to put any of all of this on, but we've had some issues with a cemetery that we're going to have to build beside, next to, over. That's all been resolved. But anyway, getting back to your question, we've got big plans here. This school has been, I'll use the word, we've been still striving and thriving, but we have been under quite a bit of pressure because we don't have the facilities here that we should have. Coming up pretty quickly, hopefully, there will be 3 new classrooms or 3 general learning spaces built. We'll have new student amenities. There'll be some gardening and covered walkways included in that. And that hopefully is the first part of what needs to be a 3-part strategic building plan that will be put into this school over coming years. I don't know how many years that will take, because being part of a system we get a bite of the cherry, and sometimes we have to wait for the next couple of bits to come. But that's something really positive for our community to look forward to. Yeah, it's exciting.
Can you talk about what the second and third
second and third things might and should look like staff facilities. So it's not about nice staff rooms, although it would be really good to have a staff room whereby we can all fit. At the moment is office spaces for teachers, to counselling spaces, allied health space, a space for children to wait if they're not feeling well, spaces for teachers to have meetings with parents, spaces for, at the moment, the deputy principal and myself are sharing office, which is fine. We get on really well and that does have its advantages, but there are times where we need our own spaces, particularly if we're dealing with parents or teachers or students. That's part of it. And then the other thing that we will be in desperate need of will be a new school hall of some sort. So that needs to come in, because our school hall, which we can only just fit our students in and a handful of parents, so we have to be very selective as to what we can do on site. Some things we have to take off site to do. So it would be really nice to just be able to do what we would really like to be able to do here on site with the facilities that actually suit the size of the school and the parent body that we have. And also cope with the wet, rainy, cold days of Deloraine in winter. So when we need to have PE, we've got a space that's suitable for a PE class. Yeah.
Technology is being introduced more and more into school.
Yes.
Is there any other areas of interest that you think might also be incorporated into the school in the future?
Yeah, look, education's really interesting at the moment too. And this school certainly is going down and following the line of the latest evidence-based research around how children learn best. And to some extent, it touches on the old school rote learning, but it's very different to that too. So we use a lot of technology in that, but at the same time, you've got to counterbalance that with developing a really well-rounded child. Things like kitchen garden programs whereby children can go out and learn science on the ground because they're dealing with pests and bugs, or they're dealing with what is efficient watering versus too much water versus not enough water, with plants, cooking, using fractions in real life situations rather than using pretend containers in a classroom, actually getting and actually seeing what 1/4 cup of flour is and what happens to a recipe if you accidentally use 1 1/4 cups of flour when the recipe only said 1/4 cup of flour. So for us, it's about what skills and attributes our teaching staff have, and we've got a really exciting breadth of teachers at the moment, and we've got somebody coming on board this year who really is interested in and going to be invested in the kitchen garden sort of component. So going through school, it would be really nice to see children getting exposed to a bit of everything. We can't do everything because you can't fit everything in, but if they can get exposed to looking after some animals at some stage, looking after gardens, cooking, if they can socialise with the elderly in our community or down the street with the locals, how we can incorporate all those sorts of things into what it is that makes a really well-rounded individual. Education is critical and important, but being a kind person, being a tolerant person, being somebody who can problem solve are also just as valuable, if not more valuable to some extent. So it's a matter of how we balance those, and it's tricky. Some parents have different viewpoints of what they want. They want purely academics. Others are very much, we want a well-rounded child, and it's about balancing all those. So it's just coming to a really happy medium about how we do that sometimes, which can be tricky, can be very rewarding, can be very challenging.
What advice would you give to someone who's looking to do teaching?
Yes.
And what's your favourite part of the Meander Valley?
Oh, okay. Advice I would give to somebody who's going to do teaching. Teaching, I think, is a vocation. It's more than just a job. You've actually got to like students, love students, really want to get to know them. You've got to have the ability to think quickly and adjust what you're doing on the spot, and be prepared to, as we would say, even though you've got the best lesson planned, if the kids aren't taking to it, you've got to be agile enough to change and be adaptable and be creative. And if you're that sort of person, you will thrive in teaching. Love the kids that you teach, want to get the best out of them, but also set that bar high. Know that if little Mary isn't going to respond, little Mary will respond if I tweak it this way. You've got to be able to do that, because as we know, I've got 2 daughters myself. You bring them up the same, but they're nothing alike. And you've got to be able to adjust to that. And if you've got, doesn't matter whether you've got 5 children in front of you or a class of 30, you've still got 5 individuals and 30 individuals. You've got one adult or maybe 2 adults in the room who've got to be able to cater for all those individual idiosyncrasies. And sometimes, yes, they're all on the same page. Doesn't often happen. So you've got to be ready for it. Teaching these days is challenging and demanding. Expectations of parents can be difficult because sometimes we see things and sometimes, don't know what I want to say. Parents are the first educators of their children and they often know their children best. Children can also be very different at home as they are at school, and some parents will say to us, good luck, and we'll have angels in the classroom. Other times the children are great at home and they're not angels in the classroom for whatever reason, but it's about being able to work with that and work around it. But it can be the most rewarding job. But variety is the spice of life and you have to like variety.
And your favourite part of the Meander Valley?
Oh, favourite part of the Meander Valley. I'm a landscape person. Me having an office that looks out onto the Western Tiers, I love. And I think the Meander Valley has a lot to offer. And I think the Meander Valley, and we sell our rural communities, we don't sell them very well. You look at this community, you have people that innovate on farms, people that have innovated in business. And I think our children sometimes need a hand to actually have their eyes open to that. You can be like Dad and drive a tractor for a living. But hey, do you realise your dad is a contractor who has the latest GPS on the tractor, who's using that to sow seeds at the right rates, who's using that to put in poles for vineyards in the right place? As I've said to a group of girls who all said they wanted to be hairdressers when I first came here, and I think there are about 4 or 5 of them in the one class. And I looked at them and I said, I've got a couple of questions for you girls. Do you think Deloraine can have all 5 of you all being hairdressers? And they all looked at each other and went, no. And I said, okay, what are you going to do that's going to be different? You can be hairdressers to the stars. There's a hairdresser in Launceston who had for quite a few years hairdresser to the Voice, and I think it might have been back in 2017 or 2018, I can't remember. And I said, you can still be a hairdresser and still have come from Deloraine. You can still have a salon in Deloraine, but there are other options for you. You can go and be a hairdresser to the stars for 10 or 12 weeks or however long they're running programs for. Same as you can be on a farm and decide that you want to develop a cheese factory, as local people have done here, or come and set up a local salmon industry here, or become the truffle industry niche market here. This community here has so much to offer children. Parents and schools need to open the children's eyes to the possibilities. And I think it's exciting for us to be able to do that, both as parents and as educators in an area such as Deloraine.